Hello, and welcome to Open Up and Say Ha, stories from underneath the paper gown. Julia,
Yeah.
what you got going on this week?
Mine's kind of short. I just have a discovery. It's not even into discovery. It's something I've known that I've actually put into practice, and I'm like, oh, this like really works. And this is a PSA for any people our age, men, women, whatever. Trentanoin, which is essentially Retin-A. Okay. You can get it. You could go like on Apostrophe and get like a subscription to it, or get it from your dermatologist or whatever. But I've got the prescription strength, and I have been using it regularly on my face, and holy fuck, does it make a difference just in terms of like the evenness of my skin. Like just, yeah, it's amazing.
It's called Trentanoin.
Trentanoin.
When you first said Trentanoin, I thought it was like the name of someone you know.
Like I'm knowing? Somebody
no,
I'm knowing?
Like some guys, like I thought you were going to tell me a story about some guy named Trent.
A guy named Trent that I'm knowing.
Sure.
Sure.
Or
no,
like two people,
none of those.
Trent and Owen. Trent and Owen both have great skin. That's why they invented, but it's not a name brand product. It's a chemical. Is that what it is?
It is it's a topical cream called Trentanoin. I neither know the Trent or don't know the Trent. But I don't know any Trents. Trentanoin, it's wonderful. And any dermatologist or like esthetician will tell you that it's like fantastic. So this is more of a PSA and a discovery. So there you go.
Okay.
End of my
You're
story.
welcome.
Brief.
You're welcome,
everybody. How about you, Ellie?
Do you have anything? Mine's different. So like I was texting with my dad who lives in New Zealand, and we were having a lovely chat. And like after this like lovely dump that I gave him via text, he was like,
all right,
I had an irregular bowel screening. So it was like, hey, I'm going to be working at this yard sale tomorrow and it's going to be a beautiful day. It was my text. And then he was like, I had an irregular bowel screening, like came onto my phone. And I was like, what is that? Now I should tell everyone, my father lives in New Zealand. They do things a little bit differently medically there. So he said, I had an irregular bowel screening. I have to have a colonoscopy.
So you poop in a box first and then they make you do a
apparently, right. Okay. So like here, they recommend your first colonoscopy at age, whatever your doctor recommends it in your, like maybe 40, around 40 something 45? Or 50 something, depending on your doctor. I was 45. And then your doctor will, if depending how it is, either come back in 5 years or 10 years. And this is how they screen for colorectal cancer. So I guess in New Zealand, part of your regular annual physical is you poop and collect some stool samples and they like analyze that first. And then if that's weird, then they recommend a colonoscopy. And, I was like, are you worried? And then I quickly Googled, and apparently if there's any presence of any kind of blood in your stool, which could simply be from swallowing blood, could be from, could be from an ulcer or something else could
also just be from like a tear in your anus.
It doesn't mean you have
wiping.
Cancer.
Yes,
totally, exactly.
Yes, correct.
But I just thought, you gave a helpful tip about Trent and Owen, and Trent and Owen, who live in New Zealand, have to poop in a cup before they get told if they need to have a colonoscopy. And so that's all. I mean, stay tuned. Like, I hope this doesn't turn into like a really tragic tale where something horrible happens, but I don't think so.
I think so.
Fine. He doesn't have like a history of that in his family. And I think he's
and blood in stool isn't so uncommon. Like I said, it can happen from a lot of different things.
You can even from swallowing it. Like if you,
I know you said, if you're a vampire and you drink a lot of blood and then you go like take a shit in a cup, it's definitely going to show up. I know what you're thinking is like, oh, you split your lip or like you bite your cheek or like
my dad has like a lot of sinus issues and he's constantly
sinus issues. I relate.
Right? So like scraping up his throat, maybe swallowing some blood. I don't know.
We know so much about your dad now.
My dad's a vampire with irregular bowels is what the conclusion of this tale.
I think we should move out of this conversation as quickly as possible.
I think we should make a new podcast about a vampire dad with irregular bowels. Our guest today is Dion Flynn. Dion Flynn. Well, we'll tell you more about him when we have him on, but he has recently become a regular staff writer on Jimmy Fallon, and that is freaking huge. And I can't wait for you to hear from him because he's a really fun guy.
Fun. Well, I'm not going to riff on that. Let's just move on. Okay, let's do it.
He's a mushroom.
Oh, Ellie.
Sorry. Currently a staff writer on The Tonight Show, Dion Flynn is a teacher, speaker, improviser, comedian, and U.S. Army veteran. best known for his comedic portrayals on late-night TV. A 2023 New America Fellowship recipient and MFA graduate from NYU, he's cited by Oprah Magazine as one of our favorite creative thinkers. Hosting and storytelling at the Moth, he masterfully connects people through fun, innovative methods in his improviser's mindset workshops, impacting business professionals, writers, students, and more. Dion, we're so excited you're here.
Yay!
Yay!
I'm so happy to be here. I'm very, very excited about a podcast that explores illness and past experiences with illness. No, because it's like, honestly, because it's like, who does that? No one does that.
Thank
We're
you
doing
for
it. We're
calling
doing
us
this now.
original.
Yeah, we're so
You know,
special.
I just think that, Julia and I are in midlife, Dion. I
Yes.
believe you are as well, if that's all right for me to say.
No,
And
I'm just a spring flower.
totally. And I don't know, don't you find that many, if not most of your conversations when you're catching up with friends, it turns to like your ailments, your
But
medical thing? Yeah.
yeah, it's in my mind more than it ever was before. That I can definitely tell you. I probably tend to like use positive affirmation thinking and try not to dwell on it personally, but
Sure.
it's in my mind. Like my hip is doing weird things that it never did before, and it's not bouncing back as quickly.
Exactly.
It's the bounce back.
Like I even got a cut, like shaving the other day, and was like, oh, I'll just put the antibiotic ointment on it. And it's been a month and there's still a red dot on my leg. Like, why doesn't my leg regenerate skin the way that it once did? Where is my skin regeneration, Dion? Where is it?
Your body has stopped healing. The body was like, they're of a certain age. Let's stop bringing in the new stuff.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Yes, exactly.
I don't like it.
No, not a fan. But
not a fan.
As we have also said, aging is better than the alternative.
Which is dying.
Correct.
Or aging backwards, because I don't want to be a baby.
That's funny. The Benjamin Button. The
So
Benjamin
weird.
Button. Yeah. You got that
So
one.
weird. Dion, before we get into the story, can you please tell us something? I want to know, what kind of patient are you when it comes to real life medical situations? Are you are you a good patient, a bad patient, a curious patient?
I remember back, maybe I'm the way that I always was when I was young. And the reason I say maybe that's true is because I do remember this. When my mom would eventually take me to the doctors, like she was trying to save money. We didn't want to spend money. You had to really be sick to go to the doctors when I was growing up. And she would threaten me in the car. She would say, and when we get there, don't tell him nothing's wrong, because I would go there, and then I'd be like, oh, well, it wasn't really that bad. And so she would coach me into really making sure that we got our money's worth.
Nice.
There better be something wrong with you.
There better be something.
Doctor.
And don't clam up, don't clam up now. And I could see where that would be frustrating. You bring a kid into the doctor and he's like, nothing. So I guess my thing used to be when I was 7, 8, 9 was maybe I would not want to trouble the doctor. I don't want to make a big deal of it. And I that's probably actually still true of me. Yeah, I'm not the guy who will go for every little thing. Like I did go to the doctors for a kidney stone 2 years ago, and I just had to go. I literally couldn't do the Zoom meeting that I needed to do. I just got off of it or something. Anyway, I couldn't walk. I was all bent over, and we walked. We lived in Brooklyn at the time, and we walked down to I had to go. There was if there's a choice between me going and not going, I won't go. Like if it's up to me, I'll be like, I'm not going.
Understood.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a couple times in the past where like I needed to go to the hospital and I would not have gone if it weren't for the person that was with me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
exactly,
it was good that I
yes.
went, and thank God they were there to make me go. But otherwise, like, I am like, I'll just sit here and maybe die. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. No, I don't know what that is. I don't want to think of myself as like a martyr. I feel like it's the opposite of martyrdom. I just don't want to be hypochondriacal.
Yeah.
Because
and it's a lot of trouble.
It's a lot of, I don't want to trouble anybody.
Yeah.
I don't want to
be. I've heard that word pronounced like that.
Me neither.
I've heard hypochondriac, but
that's like a $5 word.
Well, a hypochondriac, here's my understanding. We'd have to Google this together. That a hypochondriac is the noun and hypochondriacal is the adjective form. Is that right? Let's get on that.
Let's not say it's wrong. I don't want to, that's not what I want to say here.
Hypochondriacal. Look at you.
Is it real?
Affected by hypochondria.
Look at you.
So I mean, I don't want to think of myself that way. You know, in fact, I think of it as somewhat, there's a band in my life when it comes to illness, there's an American flag undulating in the background and bum, bum, ba, ba, bum, 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 ba, 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 ba. And I'm going, no, I think I can get through it. I've been through a lot in this
Maybe
world.
This is the Army thing. This is like the Army veteran thing.
I think it is. It probably is. Yeah, because in sick call in the Army, suck it up and drive on. Exactly. That's the phrase they used. You had to be, if you got a name for yourself for going to sick call, because if you said you were sick in the morning, you got out of all the difficult stuff. And I took advantage of that a time or two. But there were guys that took it way too far. There were guys that got out of the Army under those conditions. They just didn't want to do the thing and they got out of it. But look, I took advantage of that every once in a while, and you were not looked upon positively by the leadership if you were sick, if you weren't absolutely sick.
I can't imagine you would be.
Because they called it malingering.
Oh, he's a malingerer.
If you're a malingerer, then you're somebody who's sick on Uncle Sam's money time, and you're not really sick.
I want the flag.
I want your new bio to say like Dion Flynn, hypochondriacal malingerer.
Not that. He's actually the opposite of that.
The anti-hypochondriacal, anti-malingerer.
That's right.
None of that.
I don't want to trouble anybody. Look, I understand that there's an open hole in my chest. You know where this comes from? I'll tell you where it comes from. I got injured in the backyard one time when I was a kid, okay? And my mom, she would panic sometimes. Like, if I got hurt, she would get angry. She would get a combination of angry and inconvenienced, and I didn't want to deal with it. So I remember I did this. This is exactly what I did. I was bleeding from the head, and I held my hand on my head, and I popped my head around the corner, and I said, "Mom, don't panic." And then I told her. So that's my ongoing psychological gesture. I'm injured. I need help. But I'm going to take care of you first, just to make sure you don't, go nuts. And so that's part of it.
Look, I don't know if you see a therapist, but now you don't need to, because we just uncovered the root cause here.
Do you guys go to therapy?
Yes.
Oh, heck yes.
Yeah, I go to therapy. I've gone to therapy for years.
Same.
Yeah. You
I'll
have
bet they didn't uncover that. You better share that and say, hey, how come we haven't figured this out? I had to figure this out on a podcast.
I want to write out a check to you guys. How do I spell?
That's great. We'll take it.
It's cool.
Yeah,
all right, money. Now your story is loosely titled "Playing Sick," but it's not just one story. It's a bunch of your recollections from being a standardized patient, also known as an SP. For listeners who don't know what a standardized patient is, will you please explain?
A standardized patient is an actor or a performer, and sometimes not an actor or a performer, who pretends like they're a sick patient to facilitate the learning process in a medical university. So you act like you're sick. You take on spinal meningitis, or you take on, anything, and you learn all the symptoms.
They give you a packet, right?
They give you a packet. You study the packet in the morning. Yeah. Come and get them, in the morning, they'll pass out the packets. You study the symptoms. And then when the students come through, you're in a fake little, examination room in a gown, and they come in, and then you answer questions if they think to ask those questions properly, and get that information. So it's a test on many, many levels for them. And medical universities, know, like we know in showbiz, that, drama and role play are some of the most effective ways of three-dimensionalizing learning.
Yeah. And it's also tricky as an actor because I was offered this job once, and I'll tell you something about that in a second, but you have to allow these medical students to try to, like you said, ask the right questions and figure out what it is that your diagnosis should be. So here you are, an actor, and you like maybe want to play it up, maybe your method, maybe you're this, but you have to be really subtle because you have to follow their cues and only give them the information that they are correctly pulling out of you. Otherwise, you might give it away. So
So it's
right?
like, and yes, of course, yes, you
Tricky.
nailed it. You nailed it. And so what I've just heard you outline is a basic truth when it comes to teachers and test givers and people that are officially giving tests. You've got a whole range of people. You have people who are real loosey-goosey and they're like, I don't care. You can look at each other's papers or whatever. And then you've got people who are really like, I'm not letting you get away with anything. Okay.
Yeah.
I was, and I'm not letting you get away with anything, guy. And here's why. I was not only testing them on the details and their ability to ask open-ended questions and to not worry. I didn't want to send bad doctors out into the world.
I love this.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Here's something I learned when I was there. Well, let me finish that idea. So I held myself to a delusional high standard. Okay. Because it was like, who cares? I mean, I'm not really stopping that many bad doctors from going out into the world. But this was 20 years ago. I really held myself to. I just felt like I was at the last bastion, saluting or something. I don't know. It was something. You
held yourself accountable, which I
held
respect.
myself accountable.
I respect.
I really did. Thank you. And I wanted to make sure they got it right, but I also wanted to make sure that they weren't selfishly worrying about themselves, because that was one of the pitfalls. They're so worried about them getting it right that they didn't just look and be there with what was in the room. Right. The same kind of skills, that actors and improvisers, like we have to really be there. Yeah.
Listening and responding.
The presence, being in the present moment.
Being there. Right. Exactly. So I was bringing that little, criteria to bear. That's one. Another one is this. I noticed that there were people that came into that room, medical students, and some of them were healers naturally.
Yeah.
Weren't many. There weren't many. And some of them were doing this for someone else. And I could feel it in their bodies. They were not there because of their own affinity for this work. Now, look, people graduate every day, not matched to what it is they studied. Why am I tried to, in my little room, so I really low-rated people who I thought needed to get kicked out of school because mom and dad wanted them to do it.
Good for you.
Because I didn't want to see them go into something that they were miserable in.
Yeah.
So I'm operating on a lot of levels here when I'm in that little room.
So you were changing lives.
That's the whole thing, right? So you were changing lives. That's a punchline if I'm just deluded and maybe it was nothing. But I didn't know this was going to be the case until I stepped in that room. Yeah. Like I didn't know that's how I was going to function as a standardized patient till I was in there.
Right. Who's to say? Look, I like to think that you impacted people's lives. I like to think that there was someone in there who was like in medical school because their dad wanted them to be a doctor, and through this process was like, this is not what I want to do. I want to be an art history major.
100%.
Good for them.
100%. Yes. And let me add to that. Okay. Years before that, I was a driver. I would drive at a park and fly in New York somewhere. And I would take people from their car park to the airport. And I was just supposed to drive them, carry their bags, maybe get a tip. We were done. But instead, I was in the wrong job. I put Trivial Pursuit cards in my shirt. And while driving, I would try to conduct like a trivia contest because you had like 8 or 9, 10 people on the little van. And there were times when I almost ran off the road while I was trying to read trivia questions.
Because you're reading and driving. We're not going to talk about that part. We'll just continue with this.
Reading and driving can kill a friendship. and that's I'm saying that's how dangerous it is to be in the wrong job. Right. I needed to be in a more show business, game show host type of job that was bringing people together, workshop leader, something. And it's not just nothing to be in the wrong job. You can kill people.
Yeah, 100%.
So let's place this for a second. Okay. How old are you when you're a standardized patient?
Let's see. I'm probably in my early 30s.
Okay. And where are you living?
This was a standardized patient training program somewhere in the Northeast of America.
Perfect.
Got it. And do you remember any specific ailment that you were assigned with that you would like to share that experience?
They gave me spinal meningitis. They gave me spinal meningitis.
Wow.
And one of the symptoms of spinal meningitis is, I guess they call it photosensitivity, or something like that.
Sensitivity to light.
Yeah, sensitivity to light. So I got inside of and Googled a little of what is that? What would that feel like? And so I just started to pretend like the lights were really bothering me. You have time before your first patient comes. I mean, before your first student comes, you have time to sit around and sort of get this together for yourself. And so I really start pretending like I have this, and your spine is affected and your body is in pain, and you've got this fluid in your spine, and they give you a spinal tap. So I started working all that. My God, by 11, I had spinal meningitis.
You
I
sure
think.
did. Yeah.
It was weird, and all the things I know now about new age thinking and positivity and health and thinking the right thought to manifest things. I can't believe I was doing that. I can't believe I spent that much time pretending deeply that I had an illness. I think it's one of the worst things you can do to yourself. Now I think.
I had some friends who, when I lived in Philadelphia for a time, we had I worked in experimental dance theater, so we made a lot of money. And no, the way that most of the actors that I worked with, they made money by being a standardized patient. That was like how everybody made their money. And I just used to hear stories about everyone just sitting around in the break room, like in their paper gowns. Like you'd go in and you'd sit in your paper gown in a robe all day. And then they would call you and have you come in. So there was this whole culture, in the acting community, around the standardized patient thing. But I think it's such a useful tool.
Extremely useful.
Also, it
extremely
helps people
useful.
get paid.
And it helps people. It helps the community. It's good for children. It's good for the
children.
It's good for the economy.
But wait, I didn't realize that standardized patients fraternized with one another during I got assigned this. So just making it about me for 1 second. Julia and I were theater majors at college together. And one of our professors, Tony Major, who has since passed, approached me and was like, I have a job for you. I think you'd be amazing. And he got me a gig as a standardized patient. And Dion, I'm usually so type A, so on top of my shit, so organized. I don't know what happened, but for some reason, I totally flaked on the day I was supposed to go meet these people, do this, whatever. And Tony called me later that day and tore me a new one and was like, how could you make me look so this is unprofessional? You did not show up. You did not take this seriously, whatever. So I've always, well, first of all, it's very clearly very upsetting, but I've always had a curiosity about this because the way I understood it was, they gave me the packet and I sort of studied up. I don't know why I forgot to show up, but I thought that I would just go in by myself and do this one time, that day. But here you're telling me, you had to, play this out over and over again with lots of different students. So you not only encountered lots of different medical students, but you're also sitting with other standardized patients who are doing the same job. So what's that like? Does anyone stick out to you? Either another standardized patient?
Were they all actors or were they just random,
Yeah. There was a guy. Okay. So some memorable figures. Absolutely. There was a guy. Let me call him. I'll call him Gordy. How's that?
That's great.
Okay. I'll call him Gordy. That wasn't his name, but I'll call him Gordy. Gordy was a dude in his 60s, big mane of grayish, gray and black hair, big beard, big dude. Dude, you just get a sense this dude leaves his robe hanging open in the back. And right. And and he picked me up one day. He gave me a ride, and it was like one of my first days. Can't remember how it all came about, but anyway, he picked me up, and they were like, he pulled up, and there were like tennis ball canisters in his car, just rattling around, and he said, he just looked at me in his little sports car, and he goes, listen, kid, the real money's in the prostate. And he drove off, and I was like, wait, what? What are you saying? And then he unfolded, the hidden aspects of this. Pretty much every day after the other standardized patients leave at 3:00, I stick around and I do a little bit of extra work. Not everybody wants to do this. Not everybody's cut out for this, but I do the prostate exam, and
wow.
20 kids stick a finger in my ass, and
oh my God.
And I say, and I was like, I'm not sure. I was like, I'm not really, I don't think that'll be for me. And I was like,
is there
is that pain? There is overtime, a lot. That's what he was bragging about. That's why he said the real money's in the prostate.
That's how he affords all those tennis balls.
All the tennis balls in the sports car. He goes, and he's like, I said, what did I say to him? I said, is that difficult? Like, is that painful? He's like, I've made easier money.
You know what I want to call that? I want to call that prostate-tution. Do you hear that?
That's really good. Of course I do. That's brilliant.
Right.
That's brilliant.
Right.
It's not laugh out loud funny, but it's a good one. You're getting paid to have fingers stuck up your ass. That's, there's a fine line. There's a fine line. Like, why is that legal? But if you just did it on the street, you get
and got off on it.
Did it on the street. Come back here behind the 7-Eleven,
somebody's car.
I keep saying kid, and but by kid I mean college students are sticking their fingers in his ass for medical purposes.
But you see, this is another thing that didn't occur to me. Like, I'm imagining, I'm given the packet, and you're answering the questions, and maybe they're like touching you a little bit. But I guess I never really let my mind go to the place where there would be intimate touching in the way that a doctor's exam is. Like, you just give over. Did like, you didn't have a finger put up your butt? Was there any palpation, ball jiggling? Was there any,
It was definitely, there's definitely, palpating. There was a lot of palpating going on. It's just like that, that thing where doctors they'll hit their fingers in it's a very ASMR satisfying kind of thing,
I like the sound.
Yeah.
I like the sound.
On the bone. It feels good.
All over.
Like ETF.
And that's the other one. Yeah, right. Emotional freedom technique.
Yeah.
EFT, emotional freedom technique.
Yeah.
I tap every morning.
And
I like that.
Collarbone, my favorite place.
Top of head, eyebrow,
eyebrow,
top of eye, underneath here. But while you're saying your affirmations about how you don't have spinal meningitis, I never contract.
I don't have COVID, Ellie. I don't have COVID.
I don't have COVID.
I am a healthy person. And then there's this right here on the forearm.
What about the side of the hand?
That's good. And those you go like this right here. You can hit them both together if you want.
I do this on the subway because it's real subtle and nobody's looking at me.
You're going to get your ass kicked because I feel like people are going to think it's an obscene gesture. Like, this is like Ross from Friends who did the thing, where he to his sister. Yeah. It's like, there's just a fine line. In the city, there's a fine line between
nobody
tapping
gives a shit what you're doing on the subway unless you're clipping your nails. Nobody cares. Give me a break.
You're right. That's a good point.
Well, it's all the other thing about those other jobs, like there were female versions too, but those were never offered to me, obviously. But to have your
breast exam,
vaginal exam, anal exam, all of it. And from what I understand, from what Gordy told me, is that one person is like doing it. I think honestly what really happened is like one person would do the test and then the others would stand around like a sort of teaching hospital in a little semicircle at his feet in the thing. And then the doctor would do it. And then the others would do it. And I just couldn't imagine how you would feel after a shift like that.
So much.
That's a lot. That's a lot going on.
I want a lot of money for that.
Yeah. I didn't get down to the exact money, but it wasn't enough. I don't even know how much it was, but it wasn't enough for me.
Except for prostate guy. He really cleaned up.
Well, I'm saying like Gordy. For me to do it, for Gordy, there wouldn't have been enough money for me to be able to do that. I just wouldn't.
We probably could have come up with a number.
Give me a number now, and I'll really let it land on me, and I'll tell you.
Dion, okay, like $1 million for a day of 20 students putting their finger up your ass.
Yes.
Come on.
Obviously, yes.
Of course you would. There's always a number. That's what I've learned.
$500 for the hour? Probably not.
But I liked better the notion that I had 30 seconds ago when I was presenting myself as a person who wouldn't sully the finger, wouldn't sully my wouldn't sully the fingers of others.
Sure.
Wouldn't sully his reputation. But once you named a number, I had to be honest.
See, and now everyone knows. Now everyone knows your number.
No, they do, and the offers are coming in now. My phone is blowing up right now.
I mean,
don't come at him in his DMs, y'all. Leave him alone. Leave him alone. Dion, you're amazing. Thank you for being on the show. This has been so much fun.
I'm so happy to be here.
Can you please tell our listeners what you're working on, where they can find you, if there's anything you'd like to promote, all that good stuff, which we will also put in the show notes?
Yes, absolutely. I would love to do that. I am working on a memoir, which is not titled yet, but 5 of the chapters are written, and that will be going out sometime. I'm not so much concerned about the written version as I am about the audiobook version, which is where I'm really going to focus on getting it across, because that's kind of where I live. So there'll be an audiobook version of my memoir at some point. It used to be called The Only Brown Kid in the Trailer Park, and there's other working titles, but whatever, that's in the works. I currently write and perform on The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon, so you can always see me every night there, or my work, or me appearing as one of my many characters, or watch clips on The Tonight Show channel. And or you can follow me on Instagram, Dion_Flynn_official Instagram. And there was one other thing. Oh yeah, no, that's it.
That's it. You've really given me a lot to think about today. And I'm going to go talk to my husband and see what his price would be for 20 or more prostate exams by medical students. And Julie, I encourage you to do the same. We can compare notes, see what number, like I prompted Dion with $1 million, but I want our men folk to come up with their own number and see what that is. I want to know how low.
First thing I'm going to do when my husband gets home tonight, how low will you go?
How low will you go?
And by the way, men out there of a certain age, go and get a prostate exam.
Oh, yeah. Great PSA. Really, truly. It's time.
Bringing it right back down to earth.
Yeah, it's important.
Get your prostate checked.
Thank you. It was so good to see your face today.
Thanks for having me, you two. It's been fun.